So yeah, those were the doctor's findings of our city and of the United States during our time right now. Does anyone have any questions while the doctors are in? So I have to repeat the question for video. So what were your inspirations for being doctors?
Well, I was particularly interested in considering social science and the relationship that social science has to performance artwork and has to the rest of the world, and in particular, developing culture. So I am Dr. A. Pinkston because it also, as a doctor, having a doctor in front of my name, it presents a more of a officiality with the work that we are presenting. And, we're all about problematizing the status quo. So we didn't go to a traditional institution to gain our doctorate. We went to the School of Life and got a doctorate in performance art. And I'll let Josie.
Well, I mean, you summed it up really, but I will admit that I wanted to be an artist, but it was just not gonna fly with my family. So being a doctor really worked out for us.
Any other questions? Yes.
Well, just in responding to that and continuing the conversation, I think social scientists who get to be a doctor, really shape our perception of what, like, deciding what questions to investigate, from what angle, and what's significant. So you are bringing to the School of Life to perhaps reshape the questions and open up a whole different understanding.
I do want to, even though it wasn't a comment, I do want to, or a question rather, I do want to comment because that you bring up such a great point that there is a status or a space reserved for folks who have the officiality to pose these questions. And so it's quite interesting the journey to get there and who is allowed in and who is missing from those question posing ceremonies.
Any other questions?
Brings in the concept of accessibility, and they are actually making it more accessible to this under discussion. Yeah, and that's very important. A lot of people want to stay on their high horse, isolated, etc. So the work that you're doing, you're bringing it into the community, into etc.
They commend you. They commend your work. That's for the record. Sum that up. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
I have a question for the doctors, not about the doctors, but for them. So what are your findings about weirdness over time? I'll say one thing can be really weird one year, and then maybe next year not weird at all.
So what are your thoughts about weirdness over time on certain things?
I would say that weirdness exists on a bell curve. Right now, we have examined, specifically with the current political situation, an escalated moment in weirdness. But I think it's just an ebb and flow. And I think as the moment will continue to escalate, and maybe at one point it will plateau, but right now we're on the upswing on weirdness. That's been my findings, but I haven't shared it with Dr. Corona yet. Have you done some research on that?
That's very insightful. Thank you, Dr. A. Pinkston. So let's see. No, there's a lot to say about that, and let me just gather my thoughts. But I do think that there is an element of, or an operation of normalization that takes place. And this is still very premature, but I have a lot of research on the subject. And there is an element of whitewashing that which is weird to make it a little bit more accessible. So again, these are still early findings, but keep up with us. We will deliver a paper or so.
Yes.
Dr. Corona, I noticed that you were gathering some information while Dr. Pinkston was speaking, and I was wondering if you could share some of that information.
Okay, so if you could share, maybe breaching patient-doctor confidentiality, but if you could share your gatherings of notes while Dr. Pinkston was talking.
And this is a very complicated tactic and way of writing these findings. So what I was actually doing was studying each of the 45 individuals here and your facial expressions. So we are doing side work on what those minute little movements of the face actually tell us about weirdness.
Yes.
So, speaking about weird, I've read an article where there's a new definition of racism now. It's about people's heart or the way they feel or the hate that spews from individuals and not necessarily attached to any race. And they said that 60% of white people believe that they are now oppressed. Do you have any information or comments about how weird that is?
So she read an article and she found some new numbers that 67% of white people now feel that they're the ones oppressed. What are your thoughts on that?
I would be really interested to know what country this research comes from, because I feel like in my research, I've noticed that Americans are way more egocentric than other parts of the world, and I wonder if the same would be true of like white Germans or white people that live in London or people that identify as white in Mexico. I'd be really interested to see the differentiation between that. Yeah.